brew some kombucha. We're gonna go through making your first fermentation tea as well as your second fermentation. And in total, we're gonna make 416 fluid ounces with 6 of these bottles as well as 2 of these ones, which will look like this at the end for under $20 per batch, and it tastes better than the store-bought stuff. You're gonna need a glass jar. I'm gonna use 2 gallons, a Kombucha Scoby, a rag with a rubber band, a sugary beverage of your choosing, either pop-top kombucha bottles or you can get a glass bottle with a replacement plastic cap, some sugar, black tea, and white vinegar, enough purified water to fill the jar you're using, a pot that can hold 1 gallon of water, a wooden spoon, a pot that can hold 1 quart of water, a measuring cup that can measure 1 quart of water, a regular spoon, and a 1 cup measuring cup, as well as a funnel. An important thing to note is that not every single thing is going to be mandatory for this. Like, you can get away with not using this pot here. This is just a massive time saver. I'll point out which things are not 100% necessary as we go. And as usual, I'm going to have links in the video description down below with everything that you're going to need so you can get started right off the bat. So the most important thing during this process is being clean, because if you are not clean during it, then you're going to end up with something kind of funny growing inside of your kombucha. It's not going to be a good experience. You don't want botulism. That said, if you are clean, then you're going to be perfectly fine throughout your entire brewing process. I've been doing this for years and have never had a problem. So for step 1, go wash your hands. And after that, you're going to take a brand new rag. You're going to take your distilled white vinegar with your brand new jar. You're going to wipe down the inside and you're going to wash it out very thoroughly with some hot water. After that, you're going to have yourself a Scoby with the starter tea. If you pick up the one in the video description here, it's the exact one that I bought. However, I've been growing mine for quite some time now. It's the exact same one. So the one you get, it's going to be a small little disc with some starter tea in it. Let me show you what mine looks like now. So to reiterate, I've washed my hands very thoroughly here, but here is my absolute monster of a Scoby. So what the Scoby is going to do is it's going to eat the sugar, chunk of the caffeine, and it's going to grow a little bit bigger, but it's going to then put probiotics back into the starter tea. It makes it more fertile. So now you're going to have your freshly cleaned jar, and before we add the Scoby with the starter tea into the jar, we're going to create our first batch of starter tea. So if you only have the 1 pot that can hold a gallon of water, you're going to go ahead and fill this up to a full gallon, and then you're going to put it on the heat. You're going to get it boiling and go through the steps I'm going to show you here. But we're not going to do that because I want to cut off a lot of time saving for boiling the water. So let me show you what we're going to do. We're going to take our measuring cup and fill it up to 1 quart, and we're going to dump it inside of the smaller pot that can hold 1 quart of water. We're going to put it on the stove top and we're going to set it to high heat. Then we're going to get our tea bags ready. I like to use a minimum of 6. You can add more if you like, but this is just what I do. And here's another optional step. When I have the 6 tea bags, I put a knot at the bottom there, and I'll put another one at the top. This is just going to make moving them around a little bit easier after they are done boiling. And as the water is heating up, we're just going to go ahead and add the tea bags. We'll get them good and moist so they will be settling in there, and then we will put it off to the side. I like to put it over here on the handle. That way it's, well, not going to catch the bottom like it's about to. And there we go. We're going to go ahead and let that get up to a boil, and in the meantime, we're going to prep the rest of the water. So the next step is we're going to take the larger pot here that holds a gallon, and we're going to put in 3 quarts of water. And there we go. We got 3 quarts of water here. So now we're just going to continue to wait for the tea to boil here. And while you're waiting, you can go ahead and move around the tea bags here just to, you know, again, make that tea nice and potent. And now that the tea is at a boil, we're going to go ahead and take our tea bags here, and we're going to move it over to the cool water pot. And next we're going to take our 1 cup and we're going to fill it up with sugar here, and we're going to slowly start pouring it in as we're stirring with the regular spoon. That way we don't get any nasty sugary buildup at the bottom. And we're just going to keep going until it is completely dissolved into the tea. And now that it is all dissolved, we're going to go ahead and put the spoon off to the side here. We're going to take our starter tea that we just made, and we're going to throw it directly into the pot that we have here. This is going to create 1 gallon of starter tea. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to wait for this to be room temperature. This is why we ended up using the 2-pot method, because if you use, well, 1 large pot, you're going to be waiting here for a while for that to cool down. But because we started off with cold water, the 3 quarts here, and then we poured the boiling water into it, this should pretty much be good to go 99% of the time. Of course, check it before you start dumping it onto the Scoby because it does not like the heat. And after checking the temperature, it's good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and take the spoon here, and we're going to remove these tea bags and set them off to the side. And this tea is good to go, so let's go dump it into the jar. All right, so I have the jar here in front of me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it up, and I'm going to try to aim right down the center here. And of course you can put like rags around in case you have a little bit of spillage, that way you don't make a huge mess. But by the time you're done, well, at least with this first jar with my 2-gallon here, or first pot with my 2-gallon jar here, we're about halfway done. So if you're using a 1-gallon jar, you're good to go. Go ahead and throw your Scoby and the starter tea that it comes with directly inside of the jar. And of course, if you already have a Scoby that you've been using like I have, just dump the stuff right on top of it like I just did. But if you're making a larger batch like I am, go ahead and throw the rag back on top just to be safe, keep the flies out of it. And repeat the process that I just showed you with one additional step. So you're gonna follow all the same steps we did before, except when you're doing the tea bag step here, I like to tie on the old tea bags to, again, just add on that little bit of potency. Again, this is optional, you don't have to do it, but I do. And with that last pour, we got it pretty much to the top here. We wanna make sure there's just a little bit of clearance, that way the kombucha and the Scoby doesn't make contact with the rag. And with the rag in place, the rubber band secure, I went ahead and moved the jar on top of this pan here. That way, in case, you know, it starts leaking for whatever reason, it catches it and protects the counter. My jar also has this little spigot on there, which makes it a lot easier to pour out the kombucha during the next step that we're going to be showing. But I like to cover it with a plastic bag as well as another rubber band here, again, just to prevent leakage. And now what we do is we wait 2 to 3 weeks. We're gonna have a little cup that we're gonna sample the kombucha with. Again, don't do it until like at least 2 weeks, because believe me, it's gonna take a minute to brew. Usually it takes closer to the 3, but you know, you could luck out. And what we're trying to do is we're waiting for it to go from tasting like a sweet tea to more of a bitter tea. The less sweetness you have, the better. That way, you know, the Scoby has eaten the sugar and converted it into probiotics. One more important thing to note is the temperature of the room that it's in is going to affect the brewing speed. I find that around 80 degrees is like the perfect range for it to get that 2 to 3 week range. While let's say you get into like the 70s, the high 60s, you're going to expect definitely the 3-week range, and potentially even up to 4 weeks. So this starter tea's been going for like 2 to 3 weeks now, so it's lost most of its sweetness. It doesn't have any funny taste, doesn't have any funny smells, so we're gonna use it. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna fill up each of these bottles halfway, making sure to leave behind a little bit of starter tea. But before we get started, we're gonna go ahead and remove the rag with the rubber band. And after making sure our hands and the spoon are washed thoroughly, we're gonna take the spoon and we're gonna bring it all the way to the bottom here, and you're gonna see all this, I think it's like a yeast or something. We're just gonna stir it up real good. That way it's all within the starter tea. And for safety, we'll put the rag back on top. So whenever you go to wash the bottles, you should also be using the white vinegar, but honestly, I just use a drop of regular dish soap. I shake it around really well with some hot water. I rinse it out, well, like 2 or 3 times, and let it dry, and then I use them. Now that I have the bottles each filled up about halfway, I'm gonna go ahead and take the funnel here, and I'm gonna fill up the jugs about right here, making sure that I leave enough room, well, so there's a air pocket. So when it comes to the juices, you can use pretty much whatever you want. I specifically use the Great Value 100% orange juice with calcium and vitamin D, and the reason being, this one specifically, while other drinks will take like 2 to 3 weeks to brew, this takes 2 to 3 days, and you can leave it on the counter a little bit longer to continue the brewing process to bring down the sugar levels and just make it a little bit more potent. But this is just my personal favorite, and there we go. All of them are nice and filled up. I'm gonna go ahead and cap them. I'm gonna wash them off real quick, just the bottles on the outside, because, well, you will get a little bit of drippage here and there. I'll leave them out to dry, and then I'll move them to the counter. And this probably isn't necessary, but I like to give them a little shake as well, and then I will twist the cap to burp them before I put them on the counter, just because I can. And here's how much starter tea I left behind. And now that your second fermentation is starting for the kombucha that you have here, go ahead and make another batch of starter tea, because, well, by the time you're done drinking this, this will be good to go. And when it comes to the production side of things, you're pretty much done. That's all you have to do. The starter tea itself isn't going to need any maintenance. You can just go ahead and let it sit be until the next time you need to fill it up. As for the kombuchas, this part is critical. You need to make sure every single day you're going and you're opening up the caps or popping open the lids on the pop top versions. That way you're releasing the carbonation that's going to accumulate. Otherwise, the pop top ones are going to create a geyser shooting out, or the plastic caps on these ones can just straight up explode. Not like violently or anything, but it is going to make a mess. Now, one important thing to keep in mind is every single sugary beverage that you use is going to create different brew times, different carbonation production. Like, for example, these ones, again, I say it takes 2 to 3 days. This very first day that I set it up, I don't need to touch it. However, tomorrow, when it gets later into the night, I'm going to go through, I'm going to burp these. The day after that, I need to burp it in the morning, and I need to burp it at night. The next day thereafter, it's going to be, well, if possible, 3 times a day. While, let's say if you're using apple juice, pineapple juice, you could just be burping it once at night, and even then, you should do it every night, but you might not get a big, like, release of carbonation. And as you figure out what your favorite flavors are, you know, what juices you prefer to use, you'll start to figure out, like, how often you need to be burping it to keep from, you know, making a giant mess, but it's just part of the learning process. Regardless, it's going to save you a ton of money. You get the health benefits of drinking kombucha, so, like, that little bit of learning, like, that's a huge win. And after a couple days of brewing, go ahead and start tasting the kombucha, you know, figure out, is it still too sweet? Does it not have enough carbonation yet? Do you want to, like, get more of a boozy flavor? Again, there's, like, next to no alcohol in these things, so don't even try. You're not going to be able to get anywhere with a kombucha. But when it gets to that ideal flavor, go ahead and throw it in the refrigerator. That is going to stop the brewing process there. If you have multiple bottles that are ready to go ahead and throw them all in there. You don't need to worry about burping them after that, and, well, you can just enjoy the kombucha. Of course, be sure to do a smell and taste test before you start, you know, chugging the kombucha. But before we conclude the video, let's do a couple fun facts. So the reason we're going to be using plastic bottle caps is because kombucha will absolutely eat up metal. So if you use a metal bottle or a metal bottle cap, it's going to, well, first of all, it's going to start eating it up, it's going to chip away any paint, and that's going to end up in your kombucha, and you're going to taste it, and you are not going to be a happy camper. Probably don't want to be drinking that. One more fun thing to keep in mind is you don't actually have to use just black tea. This is just what I've used forever, so it's what I continue to use. You can also use coffee. I don't think you want to mix juice with it, but it is an option. Or another great option is you can use green tea if you want to get your L-theanine fix. So one more fun thing to keep in mind is you don't need to keep the Scoby the same size here. You can actually cut it up, get another jar, take a little starter tea, and actually start another, like a jar of kombucha brewing. Give it to friends, you know, get more people into this awesome hobby. And there's even another form of kombucha that's available called June tea, which is pretty similar, but you're using, instead of sugar, honey as a sweetener. If you guys want to see me start a June tea batch, let me know in the comment section down below, and we'll get one of those moving. But on that note, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, ring the bell notification icon, check out the links down below. Of course, if you're on YouTube, TikTok, do what you do on TikTok, and I'll see you guys in the next video.